Hey, hi guys. Welcome to another special edition of the Learning Bus. I'm Vishak, your host and guide for the next 60 minutes or so, and hoping to take you through some very interesting concepts, slightly different from what we are generally talking about. Usually, we talk about learning design and we talk about what's happening within the space of, like performance development and employee upskilling and various other things with regards to artificial intelligence and how things are impacting, everything's that going around. But today's episode is very special for me, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun, especially because I have Joel with me over here. Quick introduction: Joel is the head of technology at Apposite, and avid experimenter with the latest technologies, tinkering around with the latest and greatest in technology out there. So we have been doing a lot of experiments, and I thought it'd be nice to kind of put our findings and stuff out there, and then hopefully kind of inspire you guys to kind of experiment by yourself as well. Today's topics are very interesting. We were thinking of a little bit of automation, workflow automation, as you've been hearing about, where because of AI, a lot of different workflows and tasks are getting automated. There are a lot of no code, low code engines out there that help you kind of quickly create solutions and apps and such that really make life easier. So we've been like tinkering around with that. And definitely, I mean, most importantly is 3D printing. So I know that Joel has a 3D printer with him, and we've been like working on a lot of different designs. Joel has been working on a lot of designs, so I thought that would be something that we should really present over here in this particular episode. And definitely, me being an instructional designer, I'm gonna bring in some parallels with these technologies and things to learning design, and how we as learning designers can kind of improve on our craft with these technologies. So that's, I mean, I think I've spoken enough. I'll ask Joel, how do you feel being on the learning bus?
Well, first of all, thank you, Vishak, for inviting me to be part of this podcast. I know it's the second episode, but after the first one and seeing that, I instantly I felt like I missed out on something. And the moment you extended your invite to me, I was extremely happy. But then you told me the topic of today's podcast, and then I was like, "Oh, how did you come up with that? You just visited my house the other day and you saw the 3D printer, and you know that there's this buzz around automation and various tools like n8n and so on. And then I just get an invite saying that this is the topic, n8n and 3D printing. And I was like, "Okay, we got to find a way how to connect those dots together." But yeah,
Yeah.
extremely excited to share a little bit of some of what I've just been tinkering around for quite a long time. That's the 3D printing. And then some brand new stuff around various things in the automation space, at least. So yeah, any
Yeah.
specific place if you want to start, or if you have some more questions, and glad to answer anything that you want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, when did you get the 3D printer, and how is it? I mean, was it easy getting something like that? How difficult is it to procure something like that?
Yeah, surprisingly now, and thanks to a couple of companies, and I'll show you the printer itself as well. But this company called Bamboo Labs has come out with printers that seem to be user oriented or entry level oriented. So they have several things that they've done right. First of all, the pricing on these printers is much cheaper and more affordable than ever before. It is literally when they enter the market, their model was about one-fifth the cost of the cheapest 3D printer, which was worth buying out there anywhere globally also. And then that disrupted the space. But then what they brought along with that low cost was high quality and extremely user-friendly software. So if you didn't know how to even begin, every screen on the app tells you with diagrams and instructions that you need to oil this, or there's maintenance to be done on certain parts. and which usually comes with experience. If you had a traditional 3D printer, you would have to level the printer on the table because of a slightly off level. It's kind of like you're printing layer by layer. Think of it as a loaf of bread. So the printer is just starting with the base slice first. Once it's done with that, then it moves to the second slice. And now yes, I know it's a simplified rectangle that I'm describing, but by the end of the print, it's printed a entire loaf of bread. That's one chunk. So now,
Particular
like
design.
in that, yeah, so like in that now to a vase or a car or any model that you can either create on your own or download from the internet from various other creators, then that's what you're feeding to your printer and it's printing that. But the coming back to Bamboo Labs and the simplicity is that this model and all their models, in fact, take out extra step that you have to do. You don't have to level with a leveler like those plumbers
Hmm.
use. So you're literally supposed to
Water.
adjust. Yeah, it has to be completely flat because again, imagine the bread slices missing the previous slice and then toppling over and falling. It's a big mess. So it needs
Yeah.
precision. And this does a pre-check before every print. It'll vibrate all the legs of the printer, very
Mm.
kind of like a micro vibration, and then adjusts itself to be perfectly balanced so that it prints accurately each time. So that's how it works. So that and coupled with the software, like I can literally not even be in my house because it's connected to the Wi-Fi. Say
Mm.
if I see something out in the wild, or maybe there's some toy I saw and I search the database and I find an app, I can send that print request to the 3D printer at home just through that app. So that kind of thing. And I'll show you the
What
screen as well if
actually Joel just mentioned right now actually happened where I guess a couple of weeks back or something, right? I mean, I saw something online, some Amazon site or something. I clicked an image and I sent it across to Joel saying, Joel, this would be an amazing print design for a, 3D printing thing. So, and what, it took you what, 3 hours, 4 hours? Don't even know if you were at home or something, but he was showing me a video of the actual printed object, and I was like, wow, it took just a few hours for him to get this done. So it's amazing. Like there is actually a clue in here of what you said, Joel, of how this impacts us as learning designers, right? I mean, um, we are becoming creators. Like the technology is out there, software is out there that makes us creators and not just consumers. You no longer have to go and buy stuff on Amazon, whatever you need. And guys, you will see some amazingly cool stuff that Joel has printed over last so many months or so, and it's amazing. I mean, why do you even need to go and buy something out there when you can just print it by yourself? So that clue, right, of us changing from consumers to creators, I think there is a lesson there for us somewhere in learning design where we treat our learners as consumers and not as creators, and therein lies maybe some sort of a gap that we are trying to address. But yeah, I mean, getting back to what we are saying, 3D printing, that's it. I can't wait to see what you have in store for us, what you've been printing out there. So we'll get to that. But I wanted to check with you. I mean, a little bit on the automation part also. Um, the ideas that we have been discussing over the last 1 year, and ever since things like Replit and other apps that came out, which are low code no code generators, we've seen how things have changed, right? I mean, and Joel will get to that, where it's no longer about you really having to know the specifics of what you want to create. It'll be great, but now even with a simple idea in your head, you just throw a prompt into one of these programmable engines, and it just spits out a workable solution, a prototype, like in there. It's getting faster and better. So how do you see it, Joel? Like from earlier times, which is like probably a year back, to right now, in terms of these tools, good, bad, ugly? You can give us some insight.
It's interesting that you should have posed that question to me. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of people who dove into this space quite early on, and they would probably be witness to literal evolution. I started dabbling with AI maybe 5 or 6 years back. I mean, for actual work, like for example, a use case was in this company. They did a lot of cataloging of products, and basically they processed a lot of images. and they had a complete workshop of people who would tag those images. That's the thing, right? So say if you go on a stock Getty images and you search, how did someone know what was in that image? It's just pixels and ones and zeros in binary format. So there are teams, literally teams out there with it's outsourced work usually, but
Mm.
they tag these images and by looking at each image and then visually describing it. Now there's obviously going to be other factors like human error and stuff. So like a typo or a you instead of green you put blue or something like that. Common human mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, what the director of the previous company or the company where I worked in wanted to do was to use AI to use computer vision to identify that, and
Mm.
then from a certain set of data, fixed keywords, so that way you are at least regulating what the described words are. Maybe there were some words you didn't want to use to describe things, or you didn't want variations of certain things. So you have
Mm.
a bank of words that it would pick from.
Mm.
So that's what we built basically. So it would just, and this is 5, 6 years back before,
Yeah.
I mean, when rudimentary image detection was there. So it would run on the daily set of images that would come and tag all of those images with very basic descriptions from that Excel sheet. And then a similar thing, an evolution of that was we also processed a lot of these award ceremonies where, say, if Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan and celebrities would be there. So based on facial recognition, we would tag them into the
Oh,
folders. And then the level two of that would be the for fashion magazines what they were wearing. So say a black suit, or if it was a female actress, then they're wearing a green gown with a silver handbag, a clutch, or whatever, things like that.
right.
So level one would be identification by facial recognition, and level two would be identification based on, yeah. So that's an example of automation back then. Now, and today, jump ahead 5 or 6 years, or maybe even the previous year, this last leap that AI has taken has kind of pushed things into a I may not need to check as much as I used to kind of thing
Mm.
before. Like,
Mm.
for example, in comparison, the tagging of those celebrities, I would have to, there were teams of checkers to check. So now the same team that used to tag those things are now just verifying the AI got it right or wrong.
Right.
Because there was a 80% chance of success, which means around 20% of the time in your Amitabh Bachchan folder, you would have Shah Rukh Khan or some other
Yeah. Yeah.
celebrity and so.
Yeah. Outliers.
So now, so that basically, and it's a good example of people who don't see AI as helpful, or they feel that they are going to be displaced in the
Right.
industry. But basically, a job that used to exist pivoted, like a reference to Ross and the couch on Friends. But anyway,
Yeah.
pivoted from tagging images to making sure that AI tag those images right. So the
Correctly.
same set, the same skill set of visually checking the image and checking the words. But now the work was already done. It was just a different role.
Mm.
So that gap, that 80%, 20% is slowly becoming such minimal checking at this stage. And that's because these models are now uh, changing the way they operate. They're self-training, they're self-refining themselves, and
Mm.
the compute power, basically legacy models, the older models which used to run, they don't need to operate anymore. So companies are
Mm.
using that infrastructure to refine or play a different role of checking the work or feeding back more samples and self-training and so on.
Got it. We got it.
So
So
like a tool, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, so automation has been there. We see that as in, workflows from long time back. They've like people have tried to kind of automate it, even during testing of products and all that we've seen, right? There are scripts that are automated to check interface changes and bugs and all of that. So we've seen this, but today I think it's a matter of you don't need to code, you don't need to know the technical details. You just need to kind of put in one prompt that says, this is what I want from it. And the system is able to kind of understand and give you a pretty good representation. I wouldn't say fully accurate 100%, but there, at least about 80%. And the rest is something that you need to kind of work through. Correct. I believe that's how it's become.
Yeah, I mean the origin of this has always been there are various people with ideas, but converting that idea to a reality has always been okay. There's a dependency, like either a skill dependency or if you're
Mm.
in a company, a resource dependency, and so on. So, say a product manager wants to get to market fast. They really have an idea that would add value to the existing product. So now they would sit and ideate and come up with some based on research, come up
Implementation.
with an actual plan of
Mm.
execution, and then it would take the team, say, maybe a decent chunk amount of time to get it developed and then tested and then released. And then there's always this fight with management as to what
Yeah.
those resources should be used for. So you're usually pitching your idea with other stakeholders and making sure that they see value in your ticket over say sales teams optimization of some data within the system.
Right.
So now, the no-code tools that came into play, like n8n and several other tools, was so that someone without that technical skill will be able to get that same work done. But it wasn't using AI back then. What it was using was a set of templates, boilerplate code. Say
Mm.
say if you wanted to build a website, so obviously you're going to have a hero section, you're going to have some cards, then maybe a pricing model section, and so on. So those are predefined models that you could kind of like drag and drop and then fill in the blanks yourself with the content bits. So then
Right.
it would connect to a CRM, content uh, management system that would plug into these uh, kind of shells of not having coded those pieces, but
Okay.
visually you knew that your idea is now translated to a tangible website or a landing page.
Right.
So then fast forward to when AI came into play. Now you don't have to have a template which maybe have been rigid, maybe didn't
Mhm.
suit your needs. It just had a
Mm.
space for 3 columns and you just wanted, say, 2 columns. By verbally describing or typing what your concept might be, then it would generate something. Now, it wasn't that great a year back because code generation was still in its early stages. So you would have to do several iterations, several tweaks and feedback to your code, your generated code. And hence that you must have heard that term one shot and no shot or 3 shot generations. So it basically a better model nowadays would say take a prompt and in the first attempt itself give you kind of very close to what you were imagining. Now, obviously, the more detailed your prompt, the closer it would be. But that's the idea of generating from just a fewer set of parameters and input points, and then getting really good looking output because these models are now kind of trained on themselves and past data. And yes, a lot of controversy exists around this, that including the art aspects as well as coding aspects, that these models couldn't have learned from thin air. They had to pick their information or their knowledge from somewhere. So
That's
that
entirely
caused
different.
initial,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
but where we are now is there are regulations and laws around that and consent before usage of certain material for training and so on. So all of these big players have already done that. And some of them, the really good ones, have made sure that didn't happen. It's just information openly available to the public, open source code, or even art that used to be beyond a certain copyright area and so on. So there's no unknowns at this stage. And then obviously, they have to also be careful of what they're allowing the public to use and generate. So they have various tiers. The better ones are going to be gated with a slightly higher subscription rate because it costs them more compute power to be able to have that level of generation. But we reached that stage where you can literally run an open source model on your laptop right now. And that's something that n8n, a company that is they were an automation company. They've integrated AI recently, but you don't have to use their AI. You can, if you already have, say, a subscription to Gemini or ChatGPT, you can just generate a API key, plug that into the system, and now you benefit from building no-code automation, but using AI. And I can share my screen and show a couple of things that you and I were
yeah.
tinkering with before the call as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
any specific thing that you would like to see, or if you want me to start with, I'll start with my
I think
screen share though.
one thing that I wanted to call out is with respect to these automation tools, right? We keep hearing that things are getting a lot of it's getting very easy, and we are able to develop stuff quite quickly. But the other side of it is, I think we were noticing for the last couple of days also, right? It's not completely foolproof. There are times when it does not work, and it kind of fails. So any comments around that also, Joel, before we kind of dig deeper into this?
Yeah, I mean, personally, at least for me, it used to be just patience, I would say, and
Mm,
a little bit of um, you know, never give up kind of attitude, because initially it was frustrating. You would see very minimal results. Say if you were trying to build a web page also, it was extremely difficult because most of these generation tools could not work with more than one file. It would just work with a single HTML, or you would have to individually go and keep back and forth between, say, your coding tool like open source VS Code or Cursor and things like that. And then when people realize that, I mean, the teams developing these tools realized that all they had to do was bring those two together, bring the AI into the coding world, and let the file do a little more, like make a file and then paste the code inside, or make several files
mm,
or a folder structure. So that way, now as a developer, you're not having to think of those steps. They are important, but now you don't have
yeah,
to think of those things and what to name your file and your variable naming schemes and
yeah,
all that, which yes, they do come into play when it's production code. But when you're a no code developer, or you're just a product manager with an idea, those things shouldn't matter to you, but your idea
yeah.
does. So now you're at that stage where you're literally, if not with speech or by with words, you're describing your initial product. Once you see it, you can describe your feedback and see that result as well. And you're just continuously refining and shaping your vision
Mm,
closer and closer to something that you didn't even think of. So the frustration levels are a little lesser now. Not that it's completely gone, and we seem to be quite close, but I would personally say sometimes it surprises you, sometimes it doesn't. But it comes down
yeah,
to the prompts. That's a prompt engineering is a career now, but it sometimes comes down to how you're describing what you want as well. And
yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
this. This is something that people keep asking me, but uh, I feel this. If back in the day you were really good at searching on Google, then you would make a really good prompt engineer today, because I could, and compared to most of my friends, I could literally find a complete stranger that they just described from Google. I mean, yes, it'll be a Facebook
Keywords,
account or whatever,
keyword magic.
but
Yeah,
yeah, that kind of thing. Or like somebody wants some kind of old game that they've lost or whatever it is. It's this thing that I had. I knew Google, and I took it to the next level. Google had like a little flags you can put to tweak your search, like with quotes or
yeah.
with a dot PDF extension and so on. So that skill carried forward here, and the prompting just comes second nature to me. So, but I've seen family members struggle to write, like, say, a song on Suno, because they would
Mm,
iterate and still doesn't sound right. But I would just describe it the way I thought it should be described, and then in one attempt get something, and they would be like so mad at me that I did something that they were struggling for days to do. But yeah, that kind of thing. It's not a skill. I think you can teach it now, and we should think about that. We should bookmark. We can
yeah,
make a,
yeah.
a course and put that up as well on how to prompt. But yeah, uh,
Also the
that's
fact that there is a certain bit of prototyping involved over there itself, right? I've noticed, like, when I work with these tools and I'm prompting, sometimes my prompt is not really perfect or clear. I mean, I just have some ideas in my head, I put it out there, but these tools are intelligent enough that it prompts back, it asks back, like, okay, what is this, what you required, or can you give me some more information around this? And in that act of like creating a proto prompt and then refining that prompt further using that tool, I'm blown by that entire experience of using some of these AI tools that way. So
yeah.
it's
What you're describing is what they have utilized. So you heard of agentic models and agents. So what they've built into the newer models is a little agent who does a check on your prompt. and
Mm.
sees, is there enough detail? Maybe I should
Mm.
ask for more questions because if I go out and do something and it's not right, then I end up, that's when the frustration factor comes in. So
Yeah.
you as a user are trying again and again and refining, versus the model is now intelligent enough to ask you, is this what you meant? Or if you haven't provided enough information to it, it will ask you a couple of questions. Maybe not just the right one, but that will then get you thinking that, okay, maybe I should have thought about this. And so the next time you come back and prompt, you will include a little thing in
In the
that
context.
beforehand. Yeah, not to skip a step, but just because now you become a little better at prompting, or you're growing into that level two prompt engineer. That's the
Mm.
idea. So
Mm.
agentic re-prompting or confirmation is, you're going to see it everywhere, but uh, it's it's a form of intelligence that makes sure that you're not just chatting with an encyclopedia or a search screen. This is not a
Yeah.
results
Not a
page. This
dump. It's
has.
not content dump. Yeah.
And the more they try and integrate every aspect of what AI can do, like the multimodality
Mm.
of image recognition or image generation. Eventually, there are a couple of still left to come, like videos now coming into play. There's the 11 Labs and all of those song generations that are independent right now, but they will also be part of this singularity, this multimodality, not singularity, but yeah. And that's an evolution. They have something to work towards. We have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But as creators, we can just hope for something even better, because whatever we can do right now, even if you think it's not that good, this is the worst it will ever be at this stage. As in, it
Mm.
will only get better. It can only improve.
Yeah.
Now, there are chances that a company gets something really wrong, and occasionally they may, but the general, at least for what I've observed, the general observation has been that they kind of make sure that they really test their stuff out, their guardrails, their safety measures and
Mm.
all,
Mm.
unless they're entirely sure that it cannot be exploited, or your everyday user can't do something devious with it, then they won't release it to the public.
Obviously, that's gonna be a layer that will come up. True. True.
Yeah.
All right, Joel. I think I'm already getting a lot of stares from my our participants over here. They're thinking, they're like eager to kind of see some stuff. So show us some stuff about what are you cooking up in n8n, or are there other, like, we keep hearing about n8n, but there is Lovable and there's so many other tools. So take your pick and show us some
Yeah.
stuff.
So this is a very it may be overwhelming at first because n8n is a different animal. It's not a chat interface. It's
Mhm.
one of those no-code tools which are flowchart based. So these are most of them will have a canvas like this where you can zoom in, zoom out. You can see a mini map on the side, and these are all draggable objects, and nodes is the general term. But each node has a very specific role. So
Interesting.
just to demonstrate, this particular node is a chat interface. So the presence of this on the screen means my automation will have some type of user input, and that's
Okay.
this box here. So it's already running below. And what this very basic workflow is doing is, I will take some type of object as a chat input, and then I've connected it to a chat GPT image generation node.
Okay.
Again, since we don't know what our audience can see, you will have to vouch for the font size and zoom levels. But
I can see.
this node is the, yeah. And a couple of things as precursors would need to be done once you set up an n8n account, either on cloud or self-hosted. You need to give it access, like you're building workflows to bring together various tools like a chat GPT or a Google Doc Drive or some type of SharePoint web page, or even an
Mm.
external Wikipedia page or any kind of data source. But you need to configure that thing, like sign in and give it permission to use your ChatGPT, or sign into your Gmail and give it permission to access your mail. And those are connections that you do and set one time. So in a tool like this, that will be in your credentials. Like I just quickly show, I signed into my Google Mail, my Drive. I've also given it access to Gemini API. These are some of the online databases, because I would have to spin up a server and install Postgres or SQL. to store data for my applications. So this is these online cloud services. So they also have APIs. And then the last one here was OpenAI, the
Okay.
connection to the chat. Yeah.
Okay. So,
So
say somebody like me, or someone who probably want to try this out, and I don't really have a workflow in my mind. All right, but I want to really try this out. Is I'm sure there are templates. I've heard that people kind of create these workflows and put it up as templates that you can reuse. So, I, is that right? I mean, is it something that you
yeah,
can do?
yeah,
Can you show us?
yeah, I will show you n8n specifically. They are the templates as well.
Mm-hmm.
But before I just wanted to let the audience know that there are two major variations of n8n,
Okay.
this depends on your use case. So say if you're running something as an experiment, or if it's an automation you want to do just for your daily work, there is an n8n open source edition
Okay.
that you can download and install on your laptop. And it's not something heavy. This one is running off my MacBook right now,
Okay.
and it's completely isolated from n8n server. But it is
Oh.
got external connections. It has obviously net access. It can access Gemini or ChatGPT and so on. So
Okay.
this variant is the one that does not have what I'm going to show you in the online variant. The difference between this offline version and the online service is the AI factor. So now the AI part, which I'm just switching over to the online version. Uh, this
So
is
you're saying
again,
a matter of privacy also, right? Like a local version would be more secure than the cloud version. Is that something my assumption correct?
uh, well, like I said, so if it's connecting to out external data sources anyway, the
Hmm.
what you are saving on is maybe a subscription to n8n for any hosting fees, or if you eventually are doing a trial and you want to deploy this on your intranet for your company, then this version would make more sense because then you're not getting into licensing for 100 users and so on.
Understood.
So
Hmm.
and this is shareable, of course, if you it's on my machine right now, but if you host this on your LAN, for example, then your employees can access the same workflows that you prepare for them, and they
Hmm.
can tap into your private repository of say HR PDF, your documents for onboarding new employees or employee policies, for example, and you
Got
just
it.
have one chatbot that is using that knowledge, and then being an interface where people can ask questions and then have
All the
responses, which you
people.
will,
Yeah.
and the beauty of that is this information you will not get in your Claude or your Gemini or your, it's private
It's
information to your
restricted to
company.
the company. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're fine-tuning these LLMs to tap into your data, your repository of it could be anything, not, I mean, HR documents is one example, but your output or your responses are catered for your company, your clients maybe, or your employees. So that control you will get in an offline version easier. Not that you can't in the online version, but then you would have to upload the document somewhere. Maybe that's not what you want to do. You have
Understood.
a land-based repository, then this will suit your needs better than an online version.
So there is a community, right? N8N community, which kind of puts out all this information, guidelines, best practices, and all that, which people can then go through to build out their own workflows, replicate and stuff.
Yes, yes. So as most open source communities, the contributions are done by its users. I mean, the suggestions on what to pick up next in the roadmap and make the next release is all community driven. There'll be forums, there'll be Discord places where you can go and contribute or listen in on those chats and just vote for a feature someone might come up with. So
Right.
it is reached that stage as most open source communities do, where it's well documented. There are guides. There's going to be a lot of tutorials on this on YouTube if you're looking for some specific workflows. Most creators, n8n content creators, will also share their workflows so that you can not have to start from scratch. You can always start from some place which is close to a workflow that you may need, and then move on to refining that to suit your needs.
Understood.
But yeah. The
Cool.
only I'm showing you the difference between the online one and the local one. So there is this n8n AI, which is in beta right now. But this is instead of those nodes and everything that you saw
Hmm.
on the earlier screen, I can prompt a workflow that I want, and then n8n will build that workflow out for me. This is the example that I have open here. This is a starter tutorial that they have. Again, just zooming in because it is kind of hard to see. But basically, there's a most workflows will have an execution point where you can start. And then
Hmm.
this is a perfect example of if you don't want to now manually trigger an action, then you can set a scheduled event for having this run every day at 7. Now,
Hmm.
why would you want something like this? Say, for example, in this case, you are this workflow is checking every day at 7 a.m. the specific tech news feeds and RSSs, and then a world news. Maybe you can refine it to tech news or any news of your choice. Maybe it's a
Right.
sports update or whatever. So these multiple inputs go at 7 a.m. into an agent summarizer. And this summarizer needs to know what technology to use. So it's connected to ChatGPT. So this
Right.
box, when you drag this box for the first time from the nodes section, it will not have the connections. It'll ask you which chat model should I use. So you can connect it to Claude or OpenAI or Gemini. And then
I see
as
this.
a yeah, as tooling, what they mean by tooling is the ability to search the net, for example, is a tool. So search tooling, you can connect it to a specific website. It could be your company news feed or a blog of your favorite writer and so on.
Or an
So all of
email
those,
feed, or check my emails and then kind of summarize that or develop a
exactly.
report. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, this email does come into play here, but that's the reverse case. What it's doing is going to send you a summary of the
Yes,
news articles for the day
I
and the
just.
world news for the day. Send that as an output format to your email, and
Hmm.
that's the idea here. So this entire thing was prompted to say that I want to create a morning routine uh, emailer to be able to start my day with some updates from my industry or summarize, like you said, my emails from my inbox to see if my weekend had a lot of backlog and I have to catch up on stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I
So
can
it's
even see what another use case would be as an instructional designer, right? I might be working on multiple projects and client feedback would be coming in on various, projects. Imagine if I had a bot like this, which would scan my email at say 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, consolidate a list of all the changes that are to be made to the modules and give it to me in one shot instead of me going through all the emails. That's like a pretty good saving of my time, I would believe. And then from there, I know, I mean, my mind would jump into all other areas where, yes, so here I have the consolidated list of review feedback. Can I get another bot to go in and make those changes, and then I just review them? So the possibilities are endless with something like this.
yeah, and that's the whole. I mean, the idea behind no code tooling and automation of this sort was you could have done this all manually.
Hmm.
It would have taken you maybe a jump from Excel to Outlook or some 3, 4 of blog sites and so on. And then you would have to rewrite this manually. So this tooling has introduced that aspect of being able to do repeated tasks or mundane tasks through a schedule or through a trigger of some sorts. Like if you get a mail with a certain subject, then do XYZ. The triggers are what gets you thinking that what is going to start this. And like you can't
Mhm.
always have something running at 7 a.m. every day. This is just an
Yeah.
example of it's a good use case, but it could be as a salesperson, you get a inquiry from a company about a certain type of e-learning, for example, in our industry. So now the moment that subject or inquiry hits that inbox, then you have this entire thing sending back an automatic response to that person with a personal touch saying that, hey, say, John, uh, nice to hear from you. We're glad to connect with you and touch base and let me know which works for you. And it literally puts 3 options there with buttons
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
time schedules that work from your calendar, maybe connected to Calendly, for example.
Yeah.
So now his response, once he gets that mail, he'll be like, wow, these people are quite active. And it will show interest. And then, or whenever he does see that mail and he picks a time slot, Now that comes back to your trigger and then sets up that meeting between you and him because you've already captured his email and stuff like that. So you're automating things you would do every day, but just with a tool like this. And what's
Uh,
helping it now, the barrier of entry has gotten easier because uh, a lot of people will come to an interface like this and be very overwhelmed with so many nodes and diagrams and this spaghetti on the screen. So it's taken that away by allowing you to at least try and prompt and see if it works. And you can automate something that you thought of or you do every day by a
yeah,
simple AI prompt. And then if it gets stuck or it fails, it has a little uh, agent in the, like I told you about the agent. So the agent is looking at what's happening. If it fails, you can say, oh, this failed, and it'll ask you, maybe you didn't provided enough information or some technical glitch must have
yeah.
happened. But there's a button that will let you fix the issue then and there as well. So it'll take a couple of tries, and maybe one day we might have one click or one prompt automation as well. But it's at
Maybe.
that stage where, yeah, but
In
what you've done is now and you're allowing people who would get scared of this kind of thing
That's
initially to
particularly me
just,
because I know that when I first checked out n8n, no, in a way there was a certain bit of dread, like oh my goodness, I mean I know I have to create kind of like a mind map of what needs to be done, and you're right, it was a little bit of a dread, but I noticed that some of these new tools, like you mentioned, the AI capability within n8n, where you can just prompt it and it'll put that entire workflow together. I think recently we are also checking out Opal, right, from Google, which was very cool. In fact, put together that entire thing together. Do you have Opal with you? I mean, if you are, we can check that also out and see how simple that
yeah,
is.
yeah, definitely. So just before I jump out of n8n, I just wanted to show a very small, simple workflow that, like I was talking about the node or chat input, and then I made two image-based outputs. So basically, in the image-based output, I'm saying take the input from here and then make an image out of it. And I said make a cute version of it. Which is my input was a puppy, so the image I got was this. And just out of curiosity, in case the topic would have been so, I also made one for make the description that comes from the input into a QRG. Now I
Okay.
forgot that I put puppy, but it still made this as the output. So if you see, it's made a quick reference guide for a puppy. And yeah, this is using Chat DALI, I believe. That's
Okay.
OpenAI's image generation. But I guess if the prompt is the key. The prompt on this box telling it what to do, the more detail you will add into it is the more refined you would get this. So
Right.
it's just a quick example of something you can do as automation. So that was n8n. I'm just jumping over to the Google example. And now we pre-built a couple of things, but just to liken this to n8n, this is also an automation tool, but this kind of resides, it's in beta right now, so it resides within the Google ecosystem or the Google workspace. So say if you were to think of external tooling like ChatGPT or uh, OneDrive, which is other companies, they don't exist yet, but obviously Google is Google and they will plug everybody into this eventually. But as of
Yeah.
now, you can talk to your Google Drive, you can talk to some type of input page, which is Gemini based, and then some type of output. So the interfaces is, I'm just jumping into a blank canvas first to show you. Oh, sorry, this was what we were playing around with. But yeah, I'll quickly read these to demonstrate as well. So it's the same. Oh, there's a onboarding as well. But the same interface exists here. This is your initial canvas, which it doesn't have those dots and grids like the other tool does, but the concept is similar. And there are only three types of nodes you can add here. So there's a user input node, there's a user generate node, which will be the AI text-based generation or image or video-based generation node, and then an output node. So say if this is your chat, once you place these on the screen, the difference between n8n and this was there was a whole bunch of settings on the right you have to configure, which is also here if you want to get granular. But the idea here is you're just describing in each of these boxes what it should do. So you could type in here and say, uh, like include this content and then plug that content into this one, come here and say, use this input and then generate, let's say image info. So generate an image out of it and then take that and then plug that in here and then make a web page out of it. So that's as simple as that. And then obviously you can test it. You can, there's even a theme tab because uh, has an, this has an interface and in the sense, uh, when n8n ran, I mean, you can connect it to web pages and external user-facing pages, but n8n ran within its environment. This, you can share this as an application, as a web page that does something like a chat interface. I can theme it, like I'm just clicking the randomize button right now. It'll generate some type of image for it, some layout and color scheme for it, and so on. And then I can share this with anyone, and they can start using it immediately. I don't have to think about deployment or any subscription fees other than my base Gemini Pro version if I want to, or if I'm using it in a free account, I'll have some daily limits, but that's the idea. And
Joel, can we try out using the prompt, the one that I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
I put a prompt over there in the chat one.
Yeah.
Um,
So, and for context for those for at least for the audience, Vishak and I took a prompt and wanted to build a workflow out of it. This was the prompt. I'm just copy pasting it here. And you want to describe it while I'm panning and zooming the various
yeah,
sections of it, Vishak? Yeah.
sure, sure. So, guys, I mean, this is something that came up in our work itself with one of our projects where the client already has a, help file location, an online help location where most of the, how to use that particular product is already covered over there. So when we are building e-learning solutions and such or videos and such for this, it would be good to, we were thinking to have a chatbot within that learning solution where say if they have a particular issue with that product, if they're not able to navigate something, and if they enter those keywords into that particular chatbot, the chatbot would connect with the online help location, get the required information, and convert it into a graphical, quick reference guide that they can use, on their job while they are listening. Or otherwise, as an instructional designer, I might want to kind of put in some quick reference guides as downloadable resources within the modules. So I thought, why not see if we can automate this because the content is already available out there. So we did, and this was the prompt that we kind of worked on. Um, so I just wanted to see if the workflow would
Yeah.
just come in, populate automatically, and it did. Yeah, go on, Joe.
So this is the prompt that led to this diagram that you see here. So Google interprets or rather Opal interprets your automation instruction and tries to bring the various aspects that will be required. So this is a one-shot prompt. There were no iterations done. It takes the user input, which will be in that final web page that is building, the QRG generator page, and then it does a search query. Then it does generation of a guide, so and these plugins, so the user goes, the search goes and gets detailed detailed queries done for researching. Then it does a cross check with uh, I believe dentally content from the website from their
Yeah,
help section, which is public information right now. And then the that plugs into the guide that generates some images and illustrations, and then assembles the entire uh, various data points that it was doing as independent agent nodes into a final HTML output. And then once you go to the actual app and see what it looks like, the user never sees those boxes and nodes and diagrams. They only see the various logical points, like they're starting with a query. Uh, we had one pre-prepared, which is the billing issue.
billing issue. Yeah, we could probably put in billing or appointment or yeah.
And I can quickly jump over to this to show you that it has now, it's the glowing box here is where it is right now. So now it's jumped, it's gone to researching, it's passing on the bits of information live because of my query, but that's what's happening in the backend. Now, again, the user will not see all of this. This is because I'm in an edit mode, but I could share this app and have it output this particular HTML or a QRG eventually. Now, it is going to take a little time because it's doing a bit of research. This is using Gemini's deep search, which is intended to take at least 30 seconds or so, and then summarize that, create some images, and then bring it all together. So again, to save time, this same prompt was already inputted in a separate tab, which I'm showing you now. And I'll expand this section. So this was the output from that query, which I used in the other screen as well. So how to resolve a billing issue? It's generated some screens and cards. I mean, basically, this is a QRG with various. I guess you can validate some of this. I'm skimming over it, but there's image
We
and
will have to,
text.
obviously we'll have to validate this, but it's and I got a different result also when I was when you were trying this. I was trying it out over here and I was getting it. So it's consistency is something that we'll have to look at to see,
That's
but
that's that's it's
yeah,
great that you brought that up because now your prompt may not have known enough to be able to make what it did, but
yeah,
all of those things that will bring you consistency are at each of these steps, these prompts
yeah,
that are massaging this data. The one that's searching it will then plug it into this page, and then eventually here you can define how you want it formatted, how the layout should be, if you have a very specific naming convention, and so on. I'm keeping an eye on the time as well. Is there
yeah.
what about 9 minutes left to skim the
I don't
world of
mind. I mean,
3D
we can
printing?
still go a few minutes overboard, but as in, I'm really dying to see what you're cooking up on the printer. So once we wrap this up, I think we can head
Yeah.
on and see what's happening over there. Yeah,
But for anyone who is wondering, and to answer you, Vishak, is your consistency in these guides, for example, this particular one comes from your output prompts and this what think of it as your starter point. The prompt which you put in, the one line prompt, led to this node's prompt being a little more detailed.
yeah,
Then you can define your header section, your main content area, and so on. So if this doesn't suit your needs, or if the color palette is wrong and your client has a color palette, for example, you can be that specific and put all that information here so that the final output box, which is responsible for this final screen, will know exactly how to produce consistent results each time.
the other side to it, right, Joel, is that I didn't know these prompts were there when I was just giving the simple prompt up front. But now at each stage, I'm able to see the detailed prompt that the AI has generated. And that gets me thinking, okay, this is how it's like using logic at this particular stage. And I can make specific changes over here to this prompt. This prompt itself is leading me to think in a different way. So I'm really stumped at the ingenuity of this. I mean, it's really getting me to think in a different way just by using the tool.
Yeah, and like I said, this is not any different from the n8n and all those examples. And as of now, it's still within the Google ecosystem, but once they open the floodgates and have integrations, like there are other players in this space, and if they, like for example, make.com or Zapier, for example, so they thrive on the collaborations that they've managed to bring, the integrations that they have. So they have to obviously speak to a company and then get their permission to use their API within their
Yeah,
system. So all of those automation integrations, they have the largest set as of date, the Zapiers, and hence the n8ns exist because in the open source equivalent, someone needed to come up and let the general public make their own integrations or their own agents and so on. So this
yeah,
is Google's stab at it. I think they've done a pretty good job because it's always good for reducing the entry barrier, so
mm,
to say, because this blurs the lines between departments like dev team and product management team and an instructional designer in our spaces.
yeah.
They they can now collaborate together and
You're putting
give
power in their
feedback.
hands. True, true.
Yeah. And then that's now giving you the ability to start producing more and getting your ideas into reality more than harping on what tech stack should I use or
That
what
that's
color scheme.
that's the whole thing. Like the magic of this is that we are kind of, and that's the title of this webinar also, is that builder's mindset, right? I mean, I think we are all kind of moving into that sort of a builder's mindset where technology is available, we have the ideas, what's stopping us from just going ahead and creating it, right? And that's actually a, I think, a good seg into the last bit, which is the 3D printing bit, where it's it just makes it so easy for you to create stuff. And I'd love to see some of the things that you have been creating, Joel. And I know that we don't have much time, but I really want to kind of see some of the things that you're building, see the printer, and maybe walk us through how you kind of go through one of those prints and such.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I was just switching over to my phone so that I can walk you guys over to the 3D printer. I just hope this works.
I hope so too.
And
You still on, right, Joel? Can you hear us?
oh, sorry. Am I audible now?
You're audible, but I
Keeps
don't think you're
going
on
mute.
mobile cam. Sorry, Joel, still with us?
Yeah, it's doing.
One of those glitches. We've been getting this in the last couple of runs of our webinar right now. So please bear with us, guys. We are almost there, and this is definitely going to be worth it. So while Joel is setting that up, I wanted to kind of um, point our attention to the fact that technologies like these, 3D printing, automation, some parallels we can draw from that is our ability as learning designers to iterate fast, to create fast. I mean, one of the things that I've been noticing, and this has been going on, a lot of our projects that we work on are very time intensive. We expect the solutions to be created really, polished, and that takes like about what, 2 months, 3 months sometimes to roll out the module to the learners. And then uh, I think it takes a lot of time, and it's rather than that, we should iterate faster, create prototypes, and put it out there, collect learner information, learner feedback as soon as possible, and keep improving on the solution. So that's one thing that I learned from these technologies. um, of course, I mean, giving that freedom to learners to make their mistakes would obviously help them in that learning process. So something that we need to think about. Joel, how are you coming along with that? Is you
I can. I'm not sure if you can hear me now, but I can either talk while I'm here at the 3D printer and then switch to the camera, which is
Oh
what I'm
man.
going to try and toggle between. But what I was
Okay.
showing you on screen at that time was I just printed these guitar picks because it was a quick print. There's four different thickness print guitar
We're not
picks.
able to see, but Joel,
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately.
I'm going to toggle to that so you can see and then toggle back because it does a
Yeah,
weird
I
thing
really
where
hope. And the kind of things that he prints are very interesting because it's not just solid objects. There are things where there are intricate parts within it that the printer is able to kind of print on its own. Again, a lot of intelligence that goes into converting simple, designs, 3D designs into fully fledged 3D objects. It's amazing. Any luck, Joel? You able to hear us, Joel? Any luck, Joel? Able to hear us?
Mm,
No.
oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, fine. So what I'll do is I'll just do a show and tell from my desk itself, but I'll just quickly
Okay.
grab one or two things and come back.
Okay. So while that's happening, guys, I know that it's at the end of the hour. Please, if you have time, please stay back. We'd be happy to kind of walk you through some of these things, the prints that Joel has completed, and hopefully, if possible, we can show you the printer as well. But if not, no worries. We'd be happy to kind of catch you again on a couple of our other sessions that we'd be having soon, because it doesn't end here. We're still kind of tinkering with a lot of things, hoping that we can have one more session maybe on this so that we can show you the printer. But yes, um, really great to have you guys over here, and thank you so much. Please do stay with us. I'm sure we are going to be showing you a little more things. Over to you, Joel.
Yeah. So firstly, this is that software that I mentioned. This is the Bamboo Labs print software, and
You
so
sharing the screen?
usually, oh, my mistake, I hadn't clicked on the screen selection. Yeah. So um, so this interface allows you to firstly browse the community models that are there. So like for example, the online models, there are a bunch of them. Something that Vishak and I were talking about in terms of how educators can use 3D printers. So, at the top of my head, I just to give an example, Vishak also, it was that say if you have a course that's teaching something about a certain motor or some kind of engineering thing like bridges and trusses or a simple lever or pulley system, so your course is accompanied by a 3D printer file. And if your student has a 3D printer, then they can print those parts and then follow along with the video example that you're demonstrating using obviously a copy which you made for yourself, but they can make their own copy and then make follow along those lessons or perform those puzzles and or whatever it is that you're distributing as a 3D printable. So that's something that I can't come up with all the use cases, but I'm sure that as this gets better and easier and uh, more creativity comes into play, people will be able to bundle 3D printable files with a course, for example, and then
Yeah.
their students can literally get something tangible printed and work with that in their hands. And a very good way to get that done is also something called kit cards. This is not new. If anyone's ever had one of those model planes or like this example, for example, it's just this bottom sheet that's printed in a certain way with all the parts that you need to make this final assembly. So this is a T-Rex model, for example, or I've made this myself. I'm not sure if my camera is also on, but this is a posable model. So say if you're an artist and you get those wooden dummy models that you pose. So I'm just holding it up against the
Can't see,
camera here.
Joel. This is right now on the screen, so I think you'll have to switch
Okay,
to the.
he has to switch to the that's this guy. Anyway, the spotlight is not on that right now, but the idea is that and there are some sample things that this person has done with it, but it's a model, for example, or it could be or these are spare parts for that model. So you can print various hand poses or extra legs in different colors and so on. There's a Tesla here. So, but yeah, the idea is that there aren't that people make a lot of these models, and right now, depending on what contest is running, those are the kinds of things you will see. But if you search, you will
Show us a
probably
model,
get a lot
Joel.
of which one?
Show us some of
Oh,
the
you
prints
switched.
that you've done from this.
Have you has he switched Spotlight? Or should I stop sharing?
I
Okay,
think when
stop
we
sharing.
click, we'll be able to. Yes, now we can see.
Okay. I can see myself really small. I don't know how I'm going to be able to see if it's in focus or not, but this
Can
is
see
that little
all these pieces, all the
dummy.
components were part of that kit, right? And you printed it out and then you assembled it.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, say if you're maybe you're not teaching someone a concept. This is for someone, say if you have a small child and this is tactile skills for them, assembling skills. Now, obviously you can get these online as well. I've seen people selling these for
I
around
know, yeah, this particular one
$25.
that you are holding is like it's almost like one of those superhero figures that you get to buy, right?
Yeah, so there are aspects of this which one can see as fun and entertaining and stuff. But keeping with not just with the theme, my own curiosity has always been to tinker, to make, to build and stuff. So the very first few prints I'm going to start with is the 3D printer itself comes with some files on the printer, which you can just
Mm,
tap the screen and start printing them. So one of them
mm,
is the this it's a little blade which they give you, but you can print this whole handle, and then this becomes the thing that you can lift your prints off the bed from. Now we
mm,
didn't get to show you, but the way the printer works is there's a hotbed which moves at the bottom, and it's constantly moving, and the printer head is also moving. So you're basically making that. But remember the bread analogy. So
yeah,
you're with melted plastic, you're drawing layer by layer the shape that will where it's coming from the software into a real 3D object. So the it has to stay at least in the same position as far as the software is concerned. So the plate gets hot, the plastic sticks to that base,
yeah.
and it can move around freely without falling over or ever moving. And that's what this is for. So when you finish your print and it cools down a little bit, then you can delicately just loosen the edges of the thing and heat it up. So that's one
It's
thing
so
that I
meta,
printed.
right? You get to print the tools that you use to actually create the next set of products. Like show us the vernier calipers that you printed out. The
And
one.
and the next thing that happened was I was so this is the thing that Vishak is talking about. So it is you can buy these, and these I'm a physics student, so I use these a lot, and they only were accessible to us in the physics lab. But this is a two-part print, so it comes apart, and these are the two halves of the file, and then it assembles here. But what it's for, you know, mechanical sense, it is for measuring at millimeters. So this edge here, if I could just give an example, I mean, this is the handle of that same thing. So I'm measuring it with this tool, and and it gives me an exact 1 centimeter, meaning 10 millimeters width. That's the precision of a 3D printer, by the way. If I
Mm,
download a file and it was made to be in a certain centimeters or millimeters, and you're going to get that unless you scale it up or down. If it's not going to fit on your printer, it's a big thing, then you can scale it down and print it like that. So that was what led to other things and experiments. So I've done a lot of experiments. I'm going to run through again some of them. So this is a dragonfly, you can see. So what I thought was, what if you print it so thin that it ends up being translucent? If I'm bringing it really close and you can actually see through this. So it's not
translucent.
supposed to do that because most things that you print are going to be opaque because they're thick enough. But this, I intentionally printed it thin, and two things came out of it. One is the transparency, so it looks like a dragonfly, and second is the flexibility. It's never going to break, but it's a very thin plastic. So as an art piece, or say if I'm making a mobile or some wall hanging or this, I mean, you can do a lot with this, but it's like it came out of several requests for prints that came initially, which turned out to be now I don't have to buy certain gifts, birthday gifts for people. It's like I know their interests. I know my
Yeah,
uh, my godson is really interested in this anime, so I made this. I took. I mean, you've seen my LinkedIn video, right? So I made myself. So I took his picture, then I cross referenced the manga, the anime, and then it made a likeness of him with all the hair and the 3D and quite detailed,
so
I must say.
cool, right?
That's just one example. And obviously, the next level would be painting it and stuff. And
Yeah.
then, yeah. So I initially have always wanted to know. this type of thing. Like, see this. This is it's not just static prints. This is a complete functional toy. And the way it works is, I'm just removing this is. I hope it doesn't fall apart. Oh, I broke. So basically,
You should have turned it the other way around. Yeah.
yeah. So there are gears inside, and all of them are functional gears. Like these rotate and then move the other
All of
gears, which
these
have
have
all.
been printed separately, separately.
Additionally, all of these have also fallen on the ground, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
This is another one that like I throughout my college days and I guess early adulthood, I've always felt the need to fidget with fidget spinners and toys. So this is a 17 and 1 fidget spinner. And this is a good thing to demonstrate that if it's a moving part and you don't have to assemble it, this thing will print the pieces in place. It's called print in place. So that this ring here, for example,
It's printed in
it's a
place.
clicker. It is interlocked within the inside ring, and I can never take it out. It printed that way. So I'll never lose this piece. I'll never have to assemble it. Or this side, which is like a gyroscope, fully spinning, the three concentric ones. They're
Yeah.
all printed. They printed within each other, and I can spin them and stuff like that.
Oh,
And then
so
there are
cool.
these gears, springs. All these springs are fake springs. Like it's not going to use metal, but engineers on in the world of 3D have been so ingenious that they've made these things springs inside this. NASA has done this a lot, by the way. That's something that I need to talk about. So, a very practical use case of 3D printing is they can't afford to send a spare part to outer space, right?
Yeah.
So, in most of these space stations and ships now, they have 3D printers that are occupying barely the footprint of a small printer, literally. So, and they have slightly different materials, but if they need to print a part, like some parts that are based, and they think before they even make these parts, they think that if this breaks down, the blueprint is there with these guys. They can print
Yeah.
that part and replace the broken part or the worn out part in space without having to get it. If those files don't exist, they can at least send a file because they can send video feed and
Correct.
data
How
feed
much will
exists.
it
They
take
can
to send
send
data?
they'll
Yeah.
come up with a new design and engineer that and send that across, and then the astronauts can print it. Now, NASA's done a second good thing. They open source these models. So if you go to, there's a link I can share with you guys, but the they've come up with NASA Fabric, for example, which is this very flexible intertwined pieces of plastic hexagons, but it's flexible and it can substitute like a say a broken sheet of something. They can just print a big size or small size, how big they want also, and then use that to patch a hole or whatever. Because their fabric is fiberglass, it's different. It's not this plastic. It's made for that environment. So
I'm looking
it's a
at
very
the way I saw at your home itself, all the coasters and cups and so many other things. I mean, we generally we tend to buy it from Amazon, but this is like you're having a manufacturing unit right there at home. So that's like super
yeah.
cool.
And then I do a lot of these because you get these kits, so you can use other things in it. So this is a
Hmm.
small light. It's a candle light, if you can see. It's on now. So I found this online, which looks like a melted candle. So
Yeah,
this fits into this so perfectly. So this now looks like
a
a
candle.
small candle with melted wax that I can keep some. I mean, because it's white, one can't really tell, and it helps that the battery is low. This keeps flickering on its own, so it looks
Yeah,
like a flickering flame like that. But yeah, what I wanted to say was that I can make any kind of covering for this. So imagine the transparency thing, so I can make any kind of vase or printable
a
from this.
lamp or yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the ideas. And then
No,
obviously these are just simple things you can build from scratch and experiment with, but it's quite interesting.
I'm
It
sad
needs
that we
that.
couldn't show them the printer, Joel. So I'm guessing we need to have a part two to this, and I'll take this opportunity to kind of introduce that we are gonna start a another series which are going to heavily look into research and development and new things that are happening apart from your regular scenes in learning and development and other areas, things that we are learning about in the world that really blowing our minds. And I'm sure things are going to get really advanced and easier for us as we are going forward. So we really like to explore that. Joel and I were gonna keep our, noses to the ground and see if we can really dig up these things that we can present to you, and hopefully we can get the creative juices all stoked, and we can start creating, start experimenting with this in a larger scale. So yep. I think this was a great session, guys. I hope you all had fun. I know that we are at the top of the hour, and in fact, we're probably 15 minutes away. So, if there are any questions or anything, please let us know. Just we take a quick look at the chat section over here and see if there's anything that we want to look at. And yeah,
Whether
that's about it. There, Joel is showing the stuff that the one that I sent him one late at night. I saw something and I like showed him this, and this is what he created within a couple of hours. Pretty cool, right?
I don't know what it is, but maybe you could tell them. But it's supposed to sit on your shelf, right?
This
So
is
you
this
need
is
to.
supposed to be a grim reaper, I think, like the one who comes for you at death to take your soul away.
Oh, yeah, and while people are also saying, I just wanted to point out that there are different materials and colors that these printers. It's not just white,
Yeah.
but if you saw primarily this unique one, the orange one, so this material is slightly different. It's more it's better for things that will have wear and tear. So that's why I print things that are heavy duty with this. And then the second one, and this is very rarely I print, but it's the same printer, but it allows you to print with this material, which is more flexible and like it's a completely soft,
Soft.
almost rubber-like thing. Like I found another thing that I printed. Remember that ball I told you about, Vishal?
Mm.
So this is also printed with that. It's fully hollow. You can see through it, and it's made of this mesh-like thing. It's a rubber-like material. So now I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but it opens up a slightly different avenue of what you can print because now pliability
Right.
and flexibility are coming into play. You're not just rigidness. So
Yeah.
yeah, if people have any thoughts or ideas, then nice to know. But as of now, most of what I do is practical stuff for in around in the house, like little shelves. I have this IKEA Scadis that I bought, the one that grid of holes. So I made my own containers for it and all of those
Mm.
things. I initially also there were a couple of things on I believe a vacuum cleaner that I had and the part broke and the
So you
company doesn't
printed that
have
out.
that spare part, so I modeled it and I this thing. So it's like see this thing is a screw, so you print the washer and the screw separately. Uh, and then you can print this, and this is that material that is rough and tough,
The
so it won't
hard
wear
one.
out so often. And I take use this and can actually replace a functional part in my house that I lost or someone doesn't
Awesome.
make anymore. It's not for everybody, but the like another like just like n8n, the barrier to entry is so low. And you will not believe, and this is just because the audience is here. This is around 14,000 during Diwali. I remember I bought this back then. And your only
Mm.
expense is that one whole spool, that 1 kg spool costs 500 bucks. And with
Wow.
1 kg, like they don't get over for months, like a whole year. I'm still on that same orange is still left, and it's like just not for colors. Even if you wanted to paint it yourself, that's like you're making things that people are selling. I guess you could even get into that market. Want to make and sell models or
I
stuff like
think a
that.
lot of people are doing that. Yeah, using 3D printers to create these kind of products.
Yeah,
Awesome.
many eyes. And now this is one some random thing that we thought about initially, but imagine a workflow you build in n8n where you make something that will generate an image and then the parts and break those parts into some teaching object that you can assemble.
Yeah.
And then that whole workflow becomes that you can send it to your printer.
Vijay has a question regarding printing time. I think it's quite an hour or so, right?
So it varies. Yeah, it varies on the model and the complexity, and if you have to assemble. But just to give you an example, the the small plectrums. I don't know if you managed to see that. That took 5 minutes.
The guitar things, yeah.
Yeah, and then the black thing that Vishak sent me, the Grim Reaper. This took around 25 minutes. And then this and this for anyone's out there who's a fan of Back to the Future. I printed this DeLorean with the details on the engine and the seats and all inside. So this took around 16 hours
Amazing.
to print. This took 16 hours to
Oh,
print,
okay.
and only some assembly. The wheels were separate, so that was a separate plate. After that, after the
Yeah.
main body was printed, then I attached these wheels and glued them together and so. But yeah, there are different printing variation times, and
Are you blowing up an electricity bill because of this? I think somebody had a
oh
question
yes.
regarding power consumption.
The heating, there are in this that is one of the brilliant things that this company has done. Bamboo Labs, every print you prepare, it tells you the weight of the filament going to be used. You can It has a box where you can calculate cost. So say if you're doing a bigger print, smaller print, it'll tell you in cents or your currency how much it is costing you to print that thing in terms
Mm,
of the filament used, and the duration of the print is the heating element, how long the heater was on that nozzle.
mm,
So you can put those two together, the wattage of the filament, and then you'll get a actual cost. And now this, I believe, they put in place for creators who make toys and stuff. So if they're
mm,
selling these things, they get a rough material cost, how much it
And
costs
these are
to
all
make
recyclable
one.
also, right? All
Yeah,
these
yeah. These are all these are made out of recycled plastic already, and they
Okay,
themselves are recyclable. So with the
recyclable.
exception of this rubber-based one, I believe the rest of them are all reusable. So which is why I keep any failed prints and stuff.
Mm,
Like a lot of them fail, a lot of them will fail initially when you're trying your stuff. A good example of why it would fail is, say if you got something that's not a parallel square or rectangle like this, for example. So there are parts that are, if it the think of the bread slice analogy. So when it reaches here, how is it printing this in mid-air?
right.
So if your model is not made properly, then the wire doesn't have a slice below to
Support.
put anything. It's going to start shooting out that melted filament, and there'll be like candy floss
Mess.
on your printer bed. Yeah.
Mm,
So you have to put these supports. It allows you to, the software does a calculation.
mm,
These little trees you see,
mm.
I'm showing, demonstrating because I didn't remove it, but these are only temporary supports that snap exactly
Oh,
where
can
it
take them
should.
out. Mm,
So these supports are temporary supports, so it doesn't have to print in midair,
mm.
so that you get a good print. But coming
Good.
back to that failure part is, if you're designing, if you're making your own prints, there are going to be uh, trial and errors, and that's a good education for yourself. If you learn from one mistake, and then you'll never make
Mistake.
that mistake again. Or
Yeah.
maybe you may, but as a tool that you're as a creator also, that's your fuel. I mean, I at least for me, I'm like, I have to get it right. I have to try again or try something else. Try rotating the object on its side or printing it at a different angle, making sure there's no uh, points of me having failed. And there
It's
have been a couple
about
of prints
trial
that
and
have
error.
given.
True. True.
Yeah,
Vijay had a
yeah.
question regarding if it stops mid power, then, would it resume when the power comes automatically from there, or, is it a failure, that print?
So no, this model, and now all of them have caught up because these guys did it first. But it's like, say when your washing machine goes off and it has a temporary memory. So
Memory.
that's what they've done. They resume where they left off, because unless you intervene, like unless you go and you move the head or you move the part or whatever, it doesn't matter, because it'll reheat the bed, it'll reheat the nozzle and the plastic
Mhm.
and resume where it left off, because it knew the last thing it did. It's all
Got it.
G code. They call it G code, but all of these 3D models are binaries, and what they are doing in the software is slicing this ready-made object into slices of
These
bread,
cross
essentially.
sections.
Yeah. So it
And
knows
printing
which
out just
slice
that
it
part.
reached.
Mm.
Exactly. And it knows the XY coordinate of that slice where it stopped last when the power failed. So when it resumes, and it has memory of its own, but it will pick up where it left off. So I have had that happen several times. In our electricity supply in Bombay is also quite shady sometimes, but
Yeah.
you can resume. But that was not always the case. Like traditional 3D printers, That was one struggling point. So you would have to have some type of battery or a
Hmm.
servo or something
Power
to supply
supply,
that
some UPS.
independently. Yeah.
Yeah.
In case you had a very long print, and because imagine at the end of a 16-hour print, I never failed with that car, by the way, but I would have to reach the end and then I would have to start again.
Imagine,
Would
huh,
have
if
been
that happened. Oh my
heartbreaking.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's
Nice.
a good question, a good thought also. But companies like these are really putting the user first, the beginners first, and trying to make sure that basically as an art, it's such a wonderful thing to learn and do to be able to make from thin air. Like
True.
literally the workflow of me making that 2D character, like started with a photo of me, then ChatGPT made a cartoon of it, then that a 3D model, then that extrapolated into a printable file, and so on, all the way to the physical object, which is somewhere here now. But all of that is a creator's uh, dream maybe 5 years back or 10 years back. And now it's
How
something
long it
made
could take.
real with
Yeah.
combination of all these technologies together.
Amazing. It's
And
amazing. Good
so it's not
times, I
just fun,
guess.
it's interesting.
Magnificent times that we're heading into.
Yeah. And like I said, this is the worst it will be. It can only get better than this.
It can only get better from here. Let's hope with that, and I think that's a good message to sign off, guys. Thank you so much for being part of this. I really had a great time. I know it was a little sad that we couldn't see the printer, but I'm pretty sure that we would have more sessions coming up for you. And thank you so much for being a part of this. Wish you all a great evening or a great good day wherever you're from. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Ashak. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Joel. Catch you later. Bye.
Bye.